My name is Kennedy Walsh. I am 35 years old, and I work as the Director of Strategic Acquisitions at a big software company in Denver, Colorado. My job is to find smart new companies, study their work, and help bring them into our business. I lead a team of 12 people and work closely with the money, legal, and tech departments. In the last year and a half, we have made 6 big business deals. Each one made our company stronger. But if you ask my older brother Garrett, he would just say, "She does marketing, like my work does not really matter." Garrett is 4 years older than me and lives in San Francisco. People called him a tech genius ever since he built his first computer in 6th grade using birthday money. When he did that, I was decorating my school notebooks with glittery stickers. Since then, our family always saw Garrett as the smart one and treated me like I was just in the background. I was expected to smile and stay quiet whenever people talked about technology or inventions. In college, I studied business at the University of Michigan. Garrett went to Stanford for computer science. When I got an internship at a big investment company, my mom just nodded and quickly changed the subject to ask Garrett about a school project. Garrett had not even finished it, but it did not matter. Everyone always paid more attention to his story. For a long time, I stayed quiet. I never spoke up. Even when I got promoted to director at my company when I was only 32, I just sent a short text to my mom. But Garrett? He was always showing off. He would call during Zoom meetings just to talk about podcasts he was on or post pictures of his fancy office with captions like, "Dreaming the future of tech." Meanwhile, I was leading a $60 million deal to buy an AI startup. No one noticed. No one except my Grandma Edna. Grandma Edna used to be a math professor when most women were not allowed to teach math. She knew how it felt to be ignored just because you were not a man or a coder. Even now at 80, she uses her iPad, does math on Google Sheets, and remembers her passwords. Unlike my dad, who forgets them every month. One Christmas Eve, while Garrett was going on and on about business, she leaned over to me and said, "You do not have to shout to be seen. But when the time comes, stand up and take what is already yours." I never forgot that. Still, I did not act. Maybe I was scared. Maybe I felt that no matter what I did, Garrett would never respect it. Once, during a family dinner, he looked at me and said, "So you just write ads for a software company? Sounds like you do not even understand what you are selling." I smiled on the outside, but inside I made a promise. One day, Garrett would hear my name in a big meeting room. Not from our mom, but from powerful people making billion-dollar decisions. And it would be me in charge of deals he never even knew about. I am not sure when Garrett's company started to fall apart. He always made it look like everything was going great. He had a shiny office, whiteboards full of notes, and video calls with the San Francisco skyline behind him. His startup, called Bitewave Labs, was even mentioned in a blog post called Top 10 AI Companies in the Bay Area. That same night, he called our parents and acted like his company was about to become super famous. I stayed quiet, but looked up the article myself. It was not a real review, just a paid ad. Bitewave was barely mentioned. But my family was thrilled. My mom called me early the next morning just to say, "Your brother is going places." I was happy for him, but something did not feel right. That spring, I started hearing quiet warnings from other business people. Some of the investors were pulling their money out of AI companies like Bitewave. At an event in Dallas, someone whispered to me that Bitewave was spending money too fast. Another person-in-law said they were checking contracts, which usually means a company is about to sell or give up its ideas. I never asked Garrett. He never told me. When I went home for Dad's birthday, Garrett was still pretending everything was great. He talked fast and used big words, like generative AI, deep learning, and scaling to market. I just smiled. But I knew the truth. People who are really winning do not need to explain so much. Then, one early morning, I got an email from my company. The subject said, "Possible buyout, Bitewave Labs." My heart jumped. The report said the company was in trouble and might run out of money in 120 days. Just 3 weeks before, Garrett was on a podcast saying big, bold things like, "You must go all in if you are a real founder." I wondered, Did he even know how close he was to losing everything? I took the report to a meeting with my boss, Monica. I told her the truth. That ByteWave's founder was my brother, and that I had seen him take over every family dinner, calling himself the next big thing in tech. Monica listened carefully and then asked, "Do you think the company is worth saving?" I waited a few seconds before I said, "The technology is strong, but Garrett cannot turn good ideas into a real plan." Monica nodded and said we would go ahead with our process, but I would not be in charge of the talks. Just an advisor. I agreed. Still, inside, I felt strange. I was about to step into Garrett's world, but this time, not as his little sister. I would have the power to decide what happened to his company. I did not know how he would take it, or if he would think I betrayed him. That night, I sat alone in my office with the city lights shining through the windows, reading the report again. One question kept repeating in my head: am I really about to buy my brother's company? Each week, my team looks at many new businesses. Most fail right away. But ByteWave was different. Even though they were losing money, their technology was ahead of others. It was not just AI to make pretty pictures. They had tools that could help real machines and drones see and understand the world. That was a big deal. I was the first one to see how special it was. I marked it as a top target at our March meeting. Back then, I had no idea Garrett was the founder. I remember opening the second report and seeing the name Garrett Walsh, founder and CTO. It felt like getting punched in the stomach. I checked again. No mistake. Garrett had always avoided using his full name. On podcasts, he just said Garrett from ByteWave. It was like he wanted to hide the truth. Like he was trying to keep his real life away from the story he was telling the world. I do not remember how long I sat there looking at the screen. It felt strange, but also familiar. At family dinners, Garrett always talked about ByteWave like it was the future. But in our system at work, it was just another name, marked in red, showing a serious financial risk. The next day, I officially asked to step away from the main meetings about the deal. Monica, my boss, did not ask too many questions. She just said, "I want you to still help from the side. We cannot skip a good business deal just because of family. But everything must be clear and honest." I agreed. Nate would lead the talks, and I would just help with the technical part. As I looked deeper into ByteWave's reports, the truth became clear. Garrett's company was falling apart. They had built a product, but there was no plan to sell it, no sales team, no business partners, and no steady customers. They were just waiting for more money from investors. And when the market got tight, the problems got worse. One part of the report really hit me. They had delayed paying their workers twice last year. And if they did not get more money, more than half their technical team might quit soon. I thought about Heather, Garrett's wife. She's a calm and kind nurse. They have 2 small kids, one about to start school and one still learning how to talk. Garrett was playing a risky game, and he had nothing left to bet. I was the first person to see it clearly, not as a sister, but as the person whose job was to decide what happens to his company. Some nights, I could not sleep. Not because I was afraid, but because I did not know how or when to tell the truth. I did not want to embarrass Garrett. But I also could not let him keep living a lie. I was not the little sister holding an eraser anymore. In the 3rd week of secret meetings, Nate called me. "We're almost done," he said. "Garrett still doesn't know you're behind the deal. He thinks Northbridge just wants to help a startup." Then he asked, "Do you want to tell him before we make the deal public?" I stayed quiet. Part of me wanted to call Garrett and say, "I know everything." But another part wanted to wait. I wanted to see how Garrett would tell the story, thinking no one in the family knew the truth. I wanted the silence to break on its own at the right time. Easter was coming. My mom had sent a message in the family group chat. Everyone was going to Grandma's house. Garrett was bringing a fancy bottle of wine. My mom asked me to make roast chicken. I read the message and put my phone down. There would be wine. There would be chicken. And this time, there would be truth too. I was done hiding. I stepped out of the meeting room on the 20th floor. The legal team had just finished the last paperwork for the ByteWave deal. Sunlight came through the tall windows and hit the shiny gray floor. I looked down and saw my reflection, calm, neat, and unreadable. That is how I had acted for the last 3 months. I was not the one signing the papers. That was all recorded in the official files. Nate led all the talks. I only helped as a strategy advisor. But everyone at work knew I was the one who started it all. Monica did not let me stay in the background for long. She knew I understood Garrett's company better than anyone. I stayed late many nights, studying every line in the reports. I found an old contract mistake that could have ruined the deal if we missed it. I even suggested a better idea. Instead of firing everyone at Bywave, we could keep the core engineers for 1 year under a special contract. That change helped save both the deal and the team. Garrett still had no idea I was behind everything. In the secret meetings, Garrett came in like he always did, full of confidence. He wore his gray suit and blue tie and talked like he was giving a big speech. When someone asked about the deal, he said, "Bywave is ready to grow. Northbridge is the perfect match. We chose them, not the other way around." I watched from a quiet room behind frosted glass. I listened carefully and said nothing. I was not angry. I understood him. Garrett had spent his whole life trying to be the star. Admitting that his company was being bought, even in a good deal, felt like losing a part of who he was. But I had changed. I no longer needed to prove myself. I was there, not for applause or praise, but because I knew my worth. I knew what I had built and what I was capable of. In the last week before the news went public, Monica called a meeting with the top team. The goal was to plan how to tell everyone about the deal. I gave the main update. I said Bywave had strong real-time video tech that could fit into our main product by the third quarter. I explained that the engineers would stay as a small satellite team. Garrett would work as a tech advisor for 1 year and report to our product team. The room went quiet for a few seconds. Then Monica asked, "Are you okay with this, Kennedy?" I looked her in the eye and said, "Yes. It is the right choice. I followed every rule, and there is no conflict." She nodded slowly and said, "Good. But get ready. When Garrett finds out, things might not go smoothly." I already knew that. I was ready for it. That evening, I got home late. Michael, my boyfriend, was sitting on the couch reading. He's a history teacher at a high school and always knows how to stay calm. He looked up and asked, "Everything okay?" I took off my coat and sat beside him. "The deal is done. It will be announced after Easter. Garrett still doesn't know." Michael shook his head gently. "Maybe it's time." I leaned my head on his shoulder and let out a soft sigh. That Easter, the sky was clear and bright. It was the kind of morning you only get in Boulder in April. The last snow had melted, and the grass was green again. Michael and I parked in front of my grandma's red brick house with the white porch. She had been hosting family holidays there for nearly 30 years, always baking her special apple pie. Michael squeezed my hand as we walked toward the house. "You ready?" he asked. "That depends," I said. "If Garrett starts putting on his usual show, I might need a whole bottle of wine." Inside the house, the smell of roast chicken and fresh bread filled the air. People were laughing and talking like every other family holiday. My mom rushed out to greet us, wearing the same old bunny apron she used to wear when I was in high school. "Come in, Kennedy, Michael," she said happily. Everyone's in the living room. Garrett just told a funny story about startups. I did not ask what it was about. I already knew Garrett's idea of funny usually meant bragging about himself with a smile. The living room was cozy. Garrett stood in the middle, holding a glass of wine, talking like he was giving a big speech. Heather, his wife, sat on the couch smiling, but her smile looked tight, almost forced. My dad listened carefully, nodding along. Garrett spoke with confidence. He said, "A good founder does not just build things. They also know when to leave at the right time. If you are smart, you sell before things fall apart. That way, you stay in control." I walked in just as he finished. He saw me and grinned. "There she is, my little sister," he said loudly. "The only one in the family who understands PowerPoint but still thinks AI means American Idol." Everyone laughed politely. Not because it was funny, but because they were used to Garrett making jokes to push others aside. I gave him a small smile. "You've still got that stage presence, huh?" "I have to keep it up," he said. "This startup was my baby." "So, what are you doing now?" "Still writing product descriptions. Before I could say anything, Grandma spoke from the dining table while setting napkins. Actually, she said, Kennedy works in strategic mergers. That's a bit more than writing descriptions. Garrett acted like he did not hear her. He turned to my dad and started talking again. Anyway, you should really invest in visual AI. Companies like ByteWave prove that timing and vision matter. I saw Michael, my boyfriend, hide a smirk behind his glass. Heather glanced at me, and I saw something in her eyes, maybe guilt. Dinner began. The table filled with roast chicken, potatoes, salad, and stories about the grandkids. But Garrett kept talking. He would not stop. He talked about seed funding, Series B rounds, and company growth like he was teaching a tech class. I stayed quiet, helping Michael with food, just listening. But every time Garrett spoke, I heard something different because I knew the truth behind the words. I knew what he was hiding. Then, just as my mom poured more wine, Garrett turned to me and asked, "Hey Kennedy, have you heard anything about Synergy Tech buying up vision tech companies? That space is getting hot." I put my knife down. I have heard a few things. Maybe ask them directly. Or even better, ask Northbridge Systems. Garrett laughed. You think I do not know? They're buying ByteWave. I signed the deal. The terms were great. That's what smart founders do. They know when to hold on and when to let go. Michael leaned toward me and whispered, "He's making it all up." I gave a tiny nod but said nothing. Then I looked across the table and saw Grandma watching me. Her eyes were sharp and calm, like when she used to solve tough math problems. She gave me a small nod. She did not say anything out loud, but I knew what she meant. Garrett was now telling a story about how he made the Northbridge deal happen, like it was some clever chess game he had won. He smiled as he poured more wine. Actually, he said proudly, that deal happened because I started it. Northbridge wasn't even interested at first. But once they saw me make a move, they knew they couldn't miss the chance. My mom clapped lightly. My dad chuckled. "Garrett," he said, "I've always said you were a natural at business." I quietly set down my fork. Michael looked at me, but I stayed silent. The room felt like it belonged to Garrett. Then Grandma put down her cup and spoke clearly, even though her eyes were still on her napkin. "Oh? So you started the deal?" she asked. Garrett paused, caught off guard. "Well, yeah, pretty much. The idea came from me." Grandma looked up. Her voice was calm, but sharp. "That's strange. Because unless I'm mistaken, Kennedy was the one who first flagged ByteWave as a top acquisition target." The room froze. Garrett frowned. "What? What do you mean?" "I asked Kennedy about it a few weeks ago," Grandma said. She was honest. She's the one who added ByteWave to the company's priority list. There was a light clink as someone set a glass down. My mom looked from Grandma to me. My dad leaned in a little, trying to understand. Garrett gave a nervous laugh. "Wait. Kennedy made the proposal." I looked him in the eye. "I'm the director of acquisition strategy at Northbridge. I didn't join the talks directly because of our family, but yes, I'm the one who first proposed buying ByteWave." Garrett sat up straighter. It was like someone had just pulled the floor out from under him. "That's impossible," he said. "You weren't in any of the meetings. No one mentioned your name." I nodded. "That's because you never asked." That line hit the room like a rock thrown into calm water. Heather looked at Garrett. Her lips were pressed tightly together. The table went silent. Garrett was still trying to understand. "So all this time, you were watching my company from the inside?" he asked. "Not watching," I said softly. "Analyzing. ByteWave has good tech, but a broken business model. If Northbridge hadn't stepped in, your company would have gone under in 3 months." Garrett looked around the room like he was searching for someone to take his side. "You knew this, and didn't tell me?" I nodded again. "That's the rule." I reported the family conflict, stepped away from the deal talks, and just gave advice behind the scenes. I did everything by the book. His hand clenched the table's edge. "So this was about embarrassing me in front of everyone?" I took a deep breath. "No. I'm saying this because you're telling a story that isn't true. And this family deserves to hear the truth." Grandma took a sip of tea and nodded. "Well done, Kennedy." My mom looked confused. You've had that job for how long? Over 2 years, Mom. Another silence filled the room. But this time it was not awkward. It was full of realization. Of people finally seeing me. Garrett looked at me. He was not just angry. He looked lost, like the world he believed in had just been flipped upside down. Then he pushed back his chair and stood up. His face was stiff, his jaw tight. He looked around the table at his own family, and for once, no one said a word. He turned and walked out of the room toward the front door. He did not slam it, but it closed with a clear message. He wanted to talk, but not here. And I stood up too. It felt natural. No one stopped me. The whole table stayed quiet, caught between surprise and something that felt like relief. Maybe they were just grateful that someone had finally said what needed to be said. Garrett sat on the porch steps, his elbow resting on his knee, chin in his hand, staring across the street at the line of trees. I walked outside and sat down next to him, not too close, just enough to be present without pushing. After a long pause, he finally spoke. You know what I hate most? What? I asked. Pity. I turned toward him, but he kept staring ahead. I don't pity you, Garrett, I said gently. I just stopped pretending I didn't know the truth. He let out a dry laugh. I thought I was in control, he said. That I was making the deal at the right time. That I was the one leading everything like a true founder. But really, my company was blinking red in your system since February, wasn't it? I did not deny it. I didn't want it to be this way, I said softly. But I couldn't ignore it just because it was your name on the building. Bywave had strong tech. It deserved a chance. And I knew how to make that happen. He turned and really looked at me for the first time since we sat down. You're damn good, Kennedy. So good, it's hard for me to believe. I clenched my hands in my lap. I'm not better than you. I just don't broadcast everything I do. You built stories around things that never even happened. Garrett was quiet. Then he sighed deeply. There was a time I really thought Bywave would make it. Everything fell into place at the start. Funding was quick, press was excited, and the junior developers acted like I was Steve Jobs. But then the money didn't come. Partners started asking for proof. For numbers. And I didn't have them. He paused, then added in a quieter voice. I mortgaged the house. Heather doesn't even know. Every day I woke up scared I'd get that email from a VC. Scared people would realize Garrett Walsh was just a decent coder, not a real leader. I stayed quiet. His eyes shimmered not with pride, but with disappointment. I stopped believing I was enough, he said. So I spoke louder. Acted more confident. Just to drown out that voice screaming that I was failing. I was not angry anymore. Sitting next to me wasn't the version of Garrett who used to steal the spotlight. This was a man who'd been living under pressure for years. Selling your company doesn't make you a failure, I said softly. The only failure would be if you learn nothing from it. He gave a small, bitter laugh. And you? What did you learn from letting me take all the credit while you sat there saying nothing? I looked at him and answered honestly. That silence doesn't protect peace. It only keeps misunderstandings alive. He looked at me, truly looked, without the old smugness or pride. I made you feel small for years, didn't I? I nodded. But I let it happen too, I said. I thought staying quiet made me mature. But it didn't. It just meant I was hiding from being seen. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry, he said. It wasn't fancy, but it was real. I smiled for the first time in years. I'm not the little girl standing next to your presentation anymore, Garrett. I don't live in your shadow. And I don't need you to shrink for me to shine. He smiled too. Good, he said. Because for the first time, I really want to learn from you. We sat there a while longer. Saying nothing. Just listening to the soft sounds of plates and laughter from inside the house. And in that moment, I knew something had changed. For the first time, we weren't siblings competing. We were just two people finally seeing each other clearly. 3 weeks after that Easter dinner, I got an email with a short subject line. Reconfirmation of technical advisor role, Garrett Walsh. It came while I was in a meeting with Monica and the technical team. I opened it quietly, scanned the lines, and smiled. Garrett had signed. No extra words, no drama, just his digital signature and 3 short lines. Thank you for not giving up. I still have a lot to learn. See you at HQ next month. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled. Something settled inside me, light but deep. We started working together the following week. In our first virtual meeting with the engineering team, Garrett sat on one end of the screen next to Marcus, our head of integration. I was on the other as strategy director. But this time, I did not have to hide. Not my name, not my role, not who I was. What surprised me most? Garrett listened. He did not interrupt. He did not boast. He did not make sarcastic comments. When Marcus talked about breaking the product into smaller API components, Garrett asked just 3 questions, all technical, all thoughtful. And when a young engineer nervously disagreed with him, Garrett paused, nodded, and offered a compromise. I barely recognized him. Not because he had become someone else, but because for the first time, he chose to walk beside me instead of standing above me. That afternoon, something even more unexpected happened. My dad called. "Hi, Kennedy," he said. I just wanted to ask more about your job. Could you explain what you do at Northbridge? I mean, really explain." I froze. My dad, the same man who once thought M\A was a type of pasta, was asking about my work? So I told him. Step by step. From market analysis to IP structure to how I balance risk and people during acquisitions. He did not interrupt once. And when I finished, he simply said, "You're really good at this, Kennedy. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." I smiled, my voice soft. "It's not too late, Dad." 2 days later, my mom sent a message in the family group chat. "Hey everyone, Kennedy's giving a talk at a tech conference in Austin next month. Who wants to come cheer her on?" And then something happened that I never expected. Garrett reacted. He sent a red heart. No sarcasm. No marketing genius jokes. Just support. The next month, when Garrett flew into Denver for his first week at Northbridge, I met him in the hallway on the 6th floor, home of the integration team. He stepped off the elevator with his backpack slung over one shoulder, hair messy from the early flight. "Morning, boss lady," he grinned. "Hope I'm not late." I narrowed my eyes playfully. "You're off the hook if you buy coffee." He nodded. "Already ordered." Payment accepted in the form of technical feedback. And right then, I realized something truly surprising. We could work together. Not like kids fighting over the couch, but as 2 people, 2 professionals who finally understood that real success comes not from competing, but from complementing one another. As Garrett walked into the meeting room, I followed, not out of duty, not from habit, but as someone who no longer needed to stay small just to keep the peace. And the best part? No one in my family wanted me to stay small anymore. Kennedy's story shows that true recognition is not about shouting the loudest. It comes from showing up, doing the work, and standing in your truth no matter how long it takes to be seen. ****. Have you ever been underestimated by your own family, only to quietly rise above it? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to follow this channel for more powerful stories about family, growth, and the strength it takes to finally be heard. ****.